I was asked this, what was the most challenging contract negotiations I've had? Well, last year, about April, I found this house that's perfect for my buyer and her family. She's a single mom. She just wants a house for her family. And we found it. We're supposed to close. Everything was going well until the evening before closing. The seller's agent called me and said, "We need to cancel the contract. I'm sending you the papers for signature." I said, "Excuse me? We are not canceling any contracts because my client is in U-Haul trucks packed and ready to move tomorrow with her children." He said, "Well, I can't, my seller's rep it cannot sell the property because I didn't know that." He told me this: "I didn't know that my client needs to have a court order to allow her to sell her deceased family's estate." And I said, "Oh, really? Okay, well, that is something that you have to figure out. In the meantime, you are going to sign a pre-closing occupancy for my buyers so she can move in as planned. She's willing to pay rent until you and your client figure out the document you need from the court, because my buyer is ready to close on this. The bank said we can fund, my buyer, can buy this house and they will fund this deal. You, on the other hand, does not have the authority to sell the property. So why don't you figure that out with the courts and sign this pre-closing occupancy so my buyers can move in, and then we'll cross the bridge when we get there." Well, long story short, that was, let me count the months. 5 months later, the seller's agent, who did not do his due diligence with his client, finally figured out and was able to get the paperwork from the court to allow his client to sell the property to my buyer. I would not wish that on any of my buyers at all. It was so difficult for her, feeling like it's never going to end. But eventually it was a win, and I commend her for hanging tight with me, and also thank the seller's relative who wanted to do the right thing and allowed to agree my buyer to move in until they figured out what they can do with their estate. That's the problem when the agent doesn't do their due diligence and deep dive questions before taking on a listing. The seller ends up having a really difficult time and questioning themselves. What did they do wrong? They didn't do anything wrong. The seller's agent did, by not educating his client the things that they need to do prior to selling the property. Granted, those are recommendations that the sellers don't have to take your recommendations, but we as agents have that responsibility to be that resource, to be that person for either a buyer or seller, just to be able to give them the right information so they can move forward with less glitches, or not even this whole problem of 5 month wait. It's terrible. So anyway, in the end, it was a win. So I'm really happy for my buyer. Now she's home and nobody's going to move her out of that home. And she's enjoying it with her family as she so deserves.